purpose of this session is to talk supervisors and team leaders through the process of supporting an internal application for a training contract. Written guides and the endorsement form can also be found on Engage. So key dates to be aware of. So our next available training contracts will start in 2024, and these will be across the East Midlands, West Midlands, London, and also in Scotland. The Scotland opportunity is a new opportunity, and we've also got a training contract starting in 2022. The application window to apply is currently open and will close on the 23rd of May. Anyone who is successful will be invited to an assessment centre on the 22nd or the 24th of June. And they'll also be invited to a welcome session on the 16th of June, just to check that they're all ready to go and they've got everything they need to do this virtually. Anyone that's then successful on the assessment centre will be invited in for a face-to-face interview either the week commencing the 11th or the 18th of July. Just to note, any internal candidates that are putting an application together will need to do this in their own time. However, they can do their assessment centre or the interview during working hours. They just need to log this onto Cascade, so they don't need to take any annual leave for this. So in terms of eligibility then, so the purpose of having team leader endorsement is that it provides candidates with a place on the assessment day rather than having their application screened against external candidates. So they still need to complete an application via the website, and the team leader will need to see this before signing off their endorsement form. It's important that this is of a high quality, we still score it, and if we have any concerns around it, we may push back. So it's still important that they put the time and effort that they need to into this. In terms of eligibility, they need to have been with the firm for at least 6 months, and that's 6 months by the date of the deadline of 23rd of May. The purpose of that is to understand that we've had enough time with that person to know what their skills are, what their competencies are, and to confidently sign off that endorsement form. They also need to have completed a law degree or their GDL. And ahead of starting their training contract, they will need to complete the LPC or the SQE. So it's worth bearing that in mind if you're endorsing somebody who doesn't yet have their LPC or the SQE, as they may need to take some time out of the business to complete that. In terms of the endorsement then, as I said, the form can be found on Engage. It will be considered against a list of competencies. So the team leader will need to review those competencies and sign off to say that they're confident that that individual has those competencies and displays them, or has the ability to display them in the future. And the team leader also needs to be satisfied with the application form. Just to note on that, whilst anyone going through this process will be given automatically a place on the assessment centre, once they join the assessment centre, they will be assessed against everybody else in the same way. So it's just that initial stage where this benefit takes place. Okay, so the team leader when you look at the endorsement form, you'll be asked to look at the following things. So the team leader should believe the individual demonstrates the following. So exceptional interpersonal skills with the ability to flex style. They can engage at all levels and be credible. Strong and flexible team skills, so they're able to take the lead or play an active and engaged supporting role. Positivity and enthusiasm, they're proactive and motivated to achieve success both for themselves and for the firm. The ability to demonstrate good wider commercial awareness, both in relation to clients and the legal industry. Strong written and verbal communication skills, including strong attention to detail. The ability to demonstrate relevant legal knowledge and interest in the area of law that they work in, and the ability to keep an open mind and embrace change. They think outside the box and aren't afraid to challenge. So as I say, the team leader should believe that the individual is exceeding expectations in their current role or shows the potential to be exceeding expectations in their role by the commencement of a training contract. So this is the key thing really to look at in terms of what you'll be signing off on an endorsement form. As I say, you'll also need to look at the application form and make sure it's at an acceptable standard. So in terms of the application form, so there's 3 stages to the application form. The first section is looking at qualifications. We don't necessarily look at any particular grade, so we're no longer looking for a 2-1 or any particular A-levels, but we do ask the candidate to give us that information. We'll also ask about their experience, and we want them to share both their legal and their non-legal experience, and also talk to us about what they've learned from it, not just what they've done. And then they'll have 4 questions that they'll have to answer as well. So the 4 questions you can see on the screen here. So the first one is very much focused on commercial awareness and the firm itself. So what advice would you give to Shakespeare Martineau to help them meet their ambition of becoming a top 30 law firm? Within your answer, consider what challenges the firm may face in achieving this goal and advise on what can be put in place to mitigate these. The second question is more focused around their alignment to our values. So to meet the firm's ambitions, our people need to be authentic, collaborative, trusted and brave. Tell us about a time that you were brave and stepped out of your comfort zone. What obstacles did you overcome and what was the outcome? The third question is looking at what motivates them and what they're interested in. So it's aligned a bit more with things like our responsible business. So making a difference to our people, our community and our environment is important to us. Our aim is to have a positive impact in all that we do. Tell us what's important to you and what journey this has taken you on so far. And then the fourth question is more of a general question. Tell us why you want to be a solicitor at Shakespeare Martineau. So they're the 4 questions that applicants should be looking at over the next few months. In terms of what the team needs to look out for when they're reviewing the application, the first thing is spelling and grammar. It sounds obvious, but sometimes internal candidates almost forget to check the basics. So would you be comfortable putting them in front of a client is, I guess, the question there. Is it an honest and true representation as far as you're aware? Have they put the sufficient work into it? So for example, do they know Shakespeare Martineau outside of their team? Again, it's sometimes easy for applicants to put together an application thinking because they're internal, they already know everything they need to know, but actually it may be that they know a lot about their team, but not enough that they need to know about the firm. So checking that they have shown that in their application. Have they answered the questions? So all of the questions and the elements within the question and directly answered those questions. And also, is it clear that they demonstrate skills and competencies that we're looking for? So we don't expect you to obviously know the list of competencies and skills that we're assessing, but are they explaining any skills and competencies that they've got and talking about how they developed them? So in that work experience piece, for example, rather than saying, I did such and such in this role, it's actually going that bit further and saying, well, these are the skills that I developed, and this is how I can show that, and this is how I can transfer them to this position. So overall, if you were reading their application, would you take them forward is what you need to be thinking about. Okay, so how can you help candidates to prepare? So the first thing is to discuss their career ambitions. So is this the right route for them? We do have other routes in the firm. It's not all about the training contract. There are routes such as the SQE graduate apprenticeship, there's SILEX, and there's also the opportunity for them to do it outside of the firm and self-fund something like the SQE. So having that conversation to make sure this is right for them. Encourage them to research the firm. So again, like I said, often they think they know more than they potentially do, and actually a lot of what they know is more about their teams, and making sure they do that research and really get to know everything that they need to know to show that commercial awareness in their application and through the assessment process. Encourage them to treat the application as if they were applying externally. So as I say, whilst we are giving them this opportunity where we can sign them off with endorsement and that gives them that place on the assessment centre, it's still important that they are putting together a good quality application. And if we've got any concerns, we may push back on that. So they need to be making sure that they are giving the best application they can. And whilst we don't tend to use the application form as part of our final decision in terms of making an offer, we do sometimes get to a point where actually we're really struggling to choose who to make the final offers to, and we may need to look back at the application form. So it's really important that they put the time and effort in that they can. They need to be considering the list of competencies and think about how these can be developed further ahead of the assessment process. So thinking about what is it that we look for in a training contract and training, and how can they show them, and if they haven't got them, what can they be doing to develop those skills now, ready for the assessment process. Give them the time to discuss the opportunity with you and share any worries or have any concerns lifted and have that conversation. Help them to recognise their strengths and really understand what those strengths are and how they can bring them to life during the assessment centre to really help them set themselves apart. And finally, help them to be as prepared as they can be whilst also managing their expectations. So it is a competitive process, and it's important that they know, like I say, what their strengths are, where their development areas are, and how how you expect them to get on in this process. Okay, so in terms of support and development for candidates that are either have not received endorsement for whatever reason or are not successful in the process, there's a few things we need to be thinking about. So the first thing is the conversations need to take place. So whether it's down to there being no endorsement or that they're unsuccessful, we need to ensure there's a conversation taking place between the individual, the team leader, and also the people business partner. So we can manage expectations and we can put a development plan in place to support them moving forwards. If it is a case that this just isn't the right route for them or they haven't been successful, the Early Ambitions team can also support with any conversations around alternative routes to see what else we can do to support them. If the individual you're endorsing or not endorsing, if they're reapplying, so if there's somebody who has been through this process already, we do expect them to show where previous feedback has been taken on board. So that is something we will be looking at. So again, it's something to bear in mind and to think about how could we support them with any feedback they've received to get them ready for the following year. We always provide feedback. We do this generally to all candidates, but particularly those who are internal. We make sure that we have individual feedback sessions with them where we talk through their application, their assessment centre, and their interview if they've been through the interview process as well. And we always encourage either the team leader or their supervisor to attend this meeting as well. So it's really important that we're all working together to support and develop them moving forwards. And then the final thing to mention is not to be nervous about saying no. This endorsement process, we've got a process in there for a reason. We shouldn't be signing people off just because they're internal. So if you don't feel they're ready, they're probably not ready. And actually, competition is really high in training contracts. What we don't want is to be signing people off and getting their hopes up when we already know they're not ready and putting them through a process that is not necessary, really. So it's really important to manage the expectations. If you need either the Early Ambitions team or the people business partner to be a part of that conversation, we can absolutely support with that. But we'd rather have that conversation early on than get the hopes up and then be disappointed at the end. So managing expectations is really important. So yeah, don't be afraid to turn down endorsement if you don't think they're ready.